Hello, a new venture for me. Not that it's a venture because I'm not looking to make money out of it, it's just something to pass the time. I love beer, I love pool, so I thought, why not try and combine the two? I'm not a great pool player, so don't expect any miracles from me. I love beer, but I haven't got an amazing palate, but I've drunk a lot of different beers, and so I have an opinion on them. So the idea is I'll play a game of pool, and then once each, when I should say a game of pool, I mean a game of nine ball, which is where you pop the balls in sequential order, 1 to 9. Um, I will review a different criteria after each ball goes down. Um, those will be in order: colour, clarity, lacing, carbonation, aroma, body, bitterness versus sweetness, and a taste, and then an overall assessment. So hopefully I'll give a good all-round picture of what the beer is, and you know, whether it's good or not. But yeah, it is just my opinion on the beer. So the first beer I'm going to do is this one, which is a Vault City beer, and they're from Edinburgh in Scotland. They're well known for their sour beers. This is a raspberry white chocolate honeycomb stout, and I've had it for a while. I got it from a bottle shop. I'm not quite sure which one, but it's intriguing. So let's see how it fares. Right, so we've potted the one ball. The first criteria I'm going to assess is colour. So let's get it out of this nice looking bottle. And this is a 375ml bottle, by the way, so it's a little bit bigger than your average bottle. And see what it looks like. I'm going to drink a bit of water before this because I want to cleanse my palate for the later attributes. But let's have a look, shall we? So, I've just selected this glass at random. I'm not sure whether it's the ideal glass for this sort of thing, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Bowl glasses are good to give you the ability to swirl it around and try and absorb all the flavours and smells and stuff. So in terms of colour, I'd say it was jet black, maybe very, very dark brown. As you can see there, it's a good looking stout in terms of colour. Right, so we put the 2 ball there, finally. And this is going to be the assessment of clarity. So in this case, as you'd expect, it's a stout. It's generally not going to be that clear. I mean, most of them are black, and so it's safe to say that this one is opaque. There is no light coming through that. You can't see through that at all. That's just completely clear. I also like to check out to see if there's any sediment at this point, because you do get that in some beers, and it's not a bad thing. It's just part of the brewing process. I mean, some bottles are bottle conditioned, so you'll get a bit of sediment in there. They deliberately put it in there to help condition the beer in the bottle. In this case, I'm not seeing any sediment, so I might not have poured it out. So yeah, it's an opaque beer with no sediment. So 3's down. Trying to move on to an assessment of the lacing, which is where what you can see that retains on the glass. Um, as you, I'm sure most of you have drunk beer before, and you've got that image of a foam which forms rings on a pint glass, and that's the lacing. It's generally a good sign. A beer with lacing and retention of the lacing on the glass, it just shows a quality product. Shows some body to it, and it's generally a good sign. So I haven't obviously drunk any of this yet, but I can get a basic idea of the lacing just by moving the glass backwards and forwards like this. And as you can see from that, there is quite a nice retention of the foam on the glass. I mean, it's an Imperial Stout. They're not known for keeping their heads and stuff. Higher alcohol beers, generally the head dissipates quite quickly, but this one, it's got a nice foam. So, and yeah, the lacing sort of sticks around. You get what you might term spot lacing, so it's patchy, but no, it looks good from a lacing perspective. So optimistic about this one. Okay, so the 4's down. So now it's time to look at the aroma. And this is probably where I'll show my ignorance as a beer drinker. I have drunk a lot of beer. I've been into craft beer for a few years. I'd like to think I know a little bit about what's going on, but I am not a seasoned beer reviewer with a massive palate that can pick out all of the many nuances of beer. So I'll tell you what I can smell. You get chocolate on the dark side. Vanilla. There's also the other aspects that you'd expect from a stout. Stouts generally have a fairly standard basic aroma profile of chocolate, caramel, coffee a lot of the time, which comes from the roasted malt, and then it's down to which adjuncts and the brewing processes as to what maybe additional flavors you get. And when I say adjuncts, I mean things like the stuff they add to the beer. In this case, we've got a raspberry white chocolate honeycomb stout, so it means they've probably added either fresh raspberries or some kind of raspberry flavouring. I mean, it looks like they've added fresh raspberries. And as to how they've achieved the honeycomb smell is, I don't know about that. But yeah, chocolate, caramel, coffee, vanilla. There is a sense of the alcohol content. You definitely get, you can tell it's a strong beer because you get the warm smell. I mean, I don't, it doesn't make much sense, but it's kind of a warming smell to it. You do get raspberries. Yeah, raspberry is quite a strong flavour in this. And I'd say, in terms of the honeycomb, you always get a burnt sugar kind of quality with a lot of these stronger imperial stouts, and those two flavours, I guess, honeycomb being that it is sugar, which is partially burnt, caramelised, it does sort of, it agrees with the name of the beer. So yeah, I mean, it smells great. It smells like the kind of beer you want to be drinking on a nice cold winter's day, as opposed to what I've got today, which is a warm, I don't know whether we call it spring still or is it summer yet, I don't know. But yeah, warm. So not the ideal circumstances of drinking this kind of beer, but I love beer, so I'll drink it whenever. Yeah, it smells great. And we're going to look at carbonation now. These craft beers, you know, the carbonation ranges massively. It's never going to, it's possibly not going to be as pronounced as sort of the mainstream, the lagers and things that you get in pubs. There's obviously, I'm not saying they're bad, but they're designed to refresh people mainly, and so a highly carbonated drink is a good thing. You do get that in what you call a craft stout beer, but more often than not, you've got like a fairly medium to low level of carbonation, I'd say, in these kinds of things. In this case, because of obviously the colour and the clarity of the beer, it's hard to pick out any kind of carbonation, but you can see, probably just about see, that there's if you move the beer, you can see there is a very fine carbonation there, quite slow moving, and that will add to the mouthfeel. The fact that there is some carbonation there will mean that it helps to move the flavours around in your mouth, and just helps your taste buds absorb the flavours. So yeah, it's got what you might expect for a stout, and an imperial stout. In fact, it's I'd say a low to medium carbonation, very fine carbonation. So after 6 comes the body assessment. And when I say body, I mean, is it thin, thick, in the middle? Yeah, what does it feel like in the mouth? So I'll take a little bit to test that out. I'd say it's got a very nice body. It's a sort of I wouldn't have said it was. I'd say it was on probably a medium bodied beer. I mean, for this style, you're genuinely looking an imperial stout. That is, they're generally on the medium to thick side, and I've tried imperial stouts that are much thicker. This one, I say it's got a great, in terms of the way that the body balances with the flavours involved. It's just right. It's quite refreshing almost. Although you might think it sounds strange to say that a beer that's got honeycomb, white chocolate and raspberry in it, and it's a 12% imperial stout, is refreshing. But I'd say the medium body of this actually works really well. It's a little bit sticky, which is good. I know that's a good quality because it sort of retains on your palate, and that just helps you again to absorb more flavour into your system. And you don't really want a thin stout. Stouts are all about flavour, stronger flavours, and so if you've got a thin drink, it's not going to lend itself to you absorbing all of that flavour into your system. You want a medium to thick body in your beer, and I'd say medium medium bodied, very nice. Lovely. 7 balls down, and now it's time to think about the bitterness and the sweetness of the beer. And I say beer, you know, when you think about beer, I mean, there's a lot of talk about bitterness, bittering hops in it, but there is also the opposite of that is the sweetness. They're sort of on the opposite ends of the scale, and it's basically about where does this beer fit in that range from ultra bitter to ultra sweet. For me, I like a beer that's somewhere in the middle. I don't want something that's ridiculously bitter. I don't want something that's sickly sweet. I want something that's got a range is somewhere in the middle of that range. So I'll take another drink and see what I think. As you might expect, considering what kind of a beer it is, there's a definite sweetness to the beer. Everything within this beer lends itself to sweetness. So initially you get the sweetness of the raspberry and the chocolate, and it's very pleasant. And as it finishes in the mouth, there is a nice level of bitterness, which comes from the sort of the coffee elements of the malt flavour profile. So yeah, I'd say it was a nice. It's got sweetness, but not too sweet, because sometimes with these stronger, what you might call pastry dessert stouts, you've got a beer that's ridiculously sickly sweet and just not, for me, not enjoyable. You know, I drink beer for a reason, and the reason is not to eat a liquid dessert. So yeah, but no, it's really nice. I would say that was a lovely balanced bitterness, sweetness. So the 8 balls down, which means it's time to look at the taste, which is when you're consuming food and drink, it's probably the thing which is most important to people. It's all about an overall package. You want every aspect of the product to be great, but I suppose the primary is, considering you're eating it, drinking it, is the taste. So what do you get in terms of taste alone? So I might close my eyes for this to sort of limit the senses a bit. Sometimes I think I should close my nostrils as well while I'm doing this, but I probably won't be able to taste anything because those two senses are interlinked. So in terms of the taste, you get definite chocolate. Again, it's not like. Having said that, there is kind of a lactose quality to it, so I guess you could say it's sort of milk chocolate, but there's also an element of bitterness to it, so dark milk chocolate is sort of a mixture. It's quite a broad spectrum of chocolate involved there. I suppose the fact that it's got a slight vanilla note to it as well might supports the fact that this is a white chocolate stout. I mean, most stouts are based on the idea of a milk dark chocolate, but this one is a white chocolate stout, and yeah, you get that because the vanilla. And if you think about it, there are a lot of products out there, food-wise, where you can buy white chocolate and raspberry, so that's a good combination. The raspberry is there. It's actually, it's easy to pick it up through the body of the beer and the other fairly strong flavours you get from an Imperial Stout based on that really dark roasted malt, the chocolate, the coffee, the caramel. You still get a really nice level of raspberry, and it tastes natural. It doesn't taste like an artificial kind of raspberry, which is because they've used actual raspberries, and fair play to them. I don't really like beers where they're adding artificial flavourings to things, and in my opinion, if you can extract flavours from real adjuncts, fresh raspberries, fresh chocolate, etc., as well as the hops, that's to be admired. Whereas to chuck a load of flavourings into a beer, it's nothing to write home about. But no, this one, they've used real raspberries, they've used real white chocolate, and also real honeycomb in the brewing process, and they've managed to capture most of that in the flavour. I'd say most of it. You definitely get the chocolate. You get the vanilla, which means for me that's sort of a white chocolatey kind of situation. You get the raspberry, and in terms of the honeycomb, you kind of get a burnt sugar, which is supports that honeycomb. The name of the beer being honeycomb. Honeycomb is what caramelized burnt sugar. So I would agree with the name of the beer. I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything else there. Let's pour a bit more out. It's got a nice, it has got a nice body to it, as you can see from the pour. You do get bittering hops coming through. It's a slight floral. I mean, the floral qualities of hops seems to come through as an aftertaste for this beer. So I'd say overall, lovely balance. Flavour wise, lovely, really good stuff. Not too sweet, nice level of bitterness. Not overly bitter, but bitter in the finish. Not too dry. Yeah, very good in terms of taste. And so the final attribute for assessment, because the 9's down, the game's over, is the overall package, the balance of the beer, and what I think of it generally speaking. I'd say it is a beautiful beer, lovely. I've tried a few raspberry infused stouts over the years, and none of them have been as strong as this one. In terms of the ABV, they've been on the lower end, but this one, in spite of all of the other strong flavours going on, you get that raspberry, and it really does complement the chocolate, the coffee, the caramel, all the stuff you get with stouts, generally speaking. I can't remember how much I paid for it, but whatever it was, I'm sure it's probably a bargain. And I'm not sure even if it's still available as a beer, but if you can find it, I would recommend it highly. If I was going to give this beer a rating out of 10, I would say, for me, it's probably an 8. Yeah, an 8 out of 10 for me. I might be underselling it, but I've tried So I have a fair experience with Imperial Stouts, and it is a lovely beer. And yeah, I give it an 8. So yeah, if you can find this stuff, do it. Give it a try because it's well worth it.